Start. Hariom everyone. We are starting this class on Nyaya. We are into the fourth chapter, second part. So we have reached the 25th sutra so far. So let's start first with the chanting. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahi Kavim Kavinam Upamashavastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanutibi Siddhu Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so we are into this fourth chapter, second part, where we are reaching the part where Apavarga or Moksha is being discussed. So initially, we first establish that the composite entity called the Jiva or the Jivatma, it exists. It has a separate existence, not rather separate, but a composite existence, and that has been projected into this world for removing its ignorance, for bearing the consequences of the ignorance first, of course, and then once it is established, then we move on to understanding that what we are imposing on ourselves is merely an ego of our thinking of ourselves as the body. That is the main uh, that is the main thing that we have to remove. But of course, first we have to accept that the world has been projected for the bearing of the karma phalas of the jivas. Ishvara has nothing to do with creating this world for his own interests. He, his mere presence brings about the creation of the world. He is merely the karma phal data. There also he is bound by the karma, the actions done by the jivatmas. He has no kartritvam in this creation. He has no sense of doership. So then we move on to the sutras next. Just back up to the previous one. We saw this 25th sutra earlier. Anavastha karitvat anavastha anupattehe cha apratishedha. So the doctrine of invisibility of atoms, we cannot be indivisibility of atoms cannot be refuted, because such refutation would give to a regress ad infinitum. So we have to accept the atom or the parmanu in more correct terms as the smallest possible unit of any existence, and no further division is possible because the word smallest itself is its definition. Right. Of course, there we have to understand that in its smallest state, it becomes so subtle that it is infinitely located and it is at one with the universal reality. So then we now the next topic that the opponent is taking up, or rather you can say the author is seeking to remove our doubts regarding any kind of misapprehensions or any kind of other thoughts that might come into mind, is our uh, you can say something. This is something that the Buddhist doctrine holds. We also hold it in some aspect, but not in totality. We accept that this reality has been projected, but not that there is only the thoughts. So, what is that doctrine? The doctrine is that there is no reality apart from our thoughts. Only our thoughts is the soul existence. They are creating this whole universe. Nothing solid out there is there. So, We say that no, whatever is there has been projected. Of course, you may say it is because of our thoughts, but the objects have been projected because they are not being projected by the jiva. They are being created by Ishvara for our benefit. That is how we have to understand, right? So this is the objection that is being voiced here. So first, he says what according to our intellect, what is our understanding? So he says buddhaya. So buddhaya vivechanat tu bhavanam yathatmaya upalabdhi tantu apakarshane pat sadbhav anupalabdhivat tat anupalabdhi. So this is the opponent's thought that buddhaya vivechana tu. If we analyze by our intellect, if we do a vivechana, we do an analysis by our buddhi, buddhaya. This is the fourth case. Third case, sorry. Karta ne karm ko karan se by using our buddhi. So buddhaya vivechanatu bhavanam yathatmyam uplabdhi. Whatever has been, whatever the objects of bhavanam, whatever have come into existence or whatever are appearing, yathatmya uplabdhi, their real perceivability or availability rather, if when we examine the availability of the objects around us, then tantu karshane but sadbhav anuplabdhivat tat anuplabdhi. So their availability is something that is comparable to tantu apakarshane pata. So if there is a cloth and we take out all the threads, right? So that is how he's saying is their availability. That our thoughts are the basis for the appearance of that object. They have come together to produce that appearance of that object. If you take out the threads of our thoughts, the object no longer exists. Or you can say it in another way that if you take out the material cause from the object, then the object has no independent existence of its own. So tantu apakarshane pat sadbhav anuplabdhivat tat anuplabdhi. So just like the cloth is not available for our perception, then similarly, all the objects why can't we place in that category? That is what he is saying. So if we put this in short, so he says, if we analyze by our intellect the existence of all objects, then their availability cannot be ascertained or fixed, just as the availability of a cloth is not there when we pull out each thread from it and remove it. So in the same way, all objects are not available. They are just a projection of our thoughts. There is no objective knowledge. There is no object out there. That is what he's saying. So, or we may say in another words, objects do not exist apart from our thoughts. There is no existence of an object apart from our thoughts. So that is the position he is taking up. Right. So to that, this a very short reply is given. So we say vyahatatvat ahetu. So just simply that this theory of yours or this thought of yours is in its own self contradictory. So this reason is not acceptable. So that is why we cannot accept this. So if the what is the meaning of that? What he's saying is that if you're saying there is no object existing out there, if there is no existence out there, then what is being analyzed? What are you analyzing? Without accepting any existence, then analysis itself is useless. The analysis is flawed. So no one calls a cloth as a thread, or you can say no one perceives a cloth as a thread, and no one perceives a thread as a cloth also in the other way. So you can, of course, think of it as a thread, you can observe it in that way, but otherwise the cloth is a composite entity which is very different from the threads. You need to do some activity to produce that cloth. That way you will be taking away the beauty out of all things. That is a very, we are saying is it is a very negative way of thinking. The world in its beauty has been projected. We should learn to appreciate the beauty and the effort that has come about from, anyone has, any living person only has made that cloth. So there is some kind of activity, karma, that has gone into it. So we say that the reasoning that you are giving is a contradiction itself. ये अपने में सही नहीं है. This is not the right conclusion that you can draw from that. So then, tat आश्रयत्वात् अपृथक ग्रहणम. tat आश्रयत्वात् अपृथक ग्रहणम. So we're saying that because there is a refuge and the refugee, huh? The something that if you're talking about the cloth, then the thread is the refuge and the refugee is the cloth. The cloth is dependent on it for its existence on the threads. So we are saying is that ashrayatvat aprithagrahanam. We say that there is no separate perception of the refuge and refugee. So we are not saying that the cloth is dependent for its existence on the thread, that is accepted, but there is no separate perception of the refuge and the refugee. So a cloth is the refuge of the threads. So there is no separate perception of the cloth from its threads. When we are seeing the cloth, we will think of it as a cloth. So if our thoughts were the refuge of external things, let's turn to the actual matter at hand, what we are talking about. So we are saying is, let us to look at it both ways. So if we say that our thoughts are the refuge of some external things, then there will be no separate perceptions of them. There will be only the thought that is being perceived. The actual object will not appear. But if we accept opponent's argument of the separation of thought from objects, then thoughts they can't be the refuge of external things. If you think of them as separate things, then you cannot accept any interconnection between the thought and object. Always the object will have to generate the thought, right? So that is how we say. So the whole appears after a special combination of the parts in a certain pattern, and that pattern is its existence. So that we call the cloth as the pattern that is existing. It is a pattern that is existing. So the objects where this refuge pattern of threads. Pattern of threads. So pattern, coloring, whatever. So the objects where the refuge and refugee relationship is not present, then you can say they are perceived separately. So if you are saying there is a wooden box and there is a metal box, so they are different objects totally. So the refuge refugee relationship is not there. So you can say you can perceive them separately. But if there is this relationship is there, refuge refugee, then you cannot say that you are having a separate perception. There is no separate perception of the refuge and the refugee. Here in this text, the example is given of the web and the threads. Similarly, you took the cloth and the threads from the previous sutra. And then finally, how do we experience the object? By some means of knowledge, right? So there has to be some what we call instrument of knowledge, praman. So praman, we have understood our sense organs are pramanas. So let's just look at the sutra first. So praman anupapatti upapatti. So we are saying that if oh yes, sorry, I skipped to this one. Pramanatah cha artha pratipatte. So we are saying praman. Praman is a means of knowledge, right? So this means of knowledge cannot be negated. We cannot say that this means of knowledge is not there or not needed. There has to be always in any kind of perception three things. First is the pramata, second is the prameya, and third is the praman. Right? So that connection has to be there for any prama or knowledge to come forward. So what is this pramata, praman, prameya? Pramata is the knower, the one who's knowing, right? Pramata. And then praman is the instrument which is connecting both. And then prameya is the object that is being cognized. So this praman itself cannot be negated. So in the case of our body, the pramanas are our sense organs, eyes, etc. Right? Or otherwise, if we look at the second definition of pramana, is how we apply logic to ascertain the availability or the nature of an object. They apply different logic. So all of those different logical aspects, we saw some systems accept 3, some 4, some 6, some 7, and some 10 also. But basically in Nyaya, we saw these 4 are main. So first is the Pratyaksha Praman, where how we directly perceive something. Then Anuman Praman, by means of inference. Then Shabda Praman, the praman of a renowned person or of the Veda, and then praman Here we use upapatti also. Upaman, sorry. Upaman. Knowledge by comparison. If someone, I was someone having a thorn pierce someone's foot, I have experienced this before, then just when he's stepping on the thorn, I will say, oh, so that, I can in a way experience that other person's pain. So that is upman. So all those four pramanas, they help us to estimate or ascertain rather to the nature of an object. So we say here pramanatah cha artha pratipatte. Pramana cha artha pratipatte. So all things are established by certain evidence. The reality of things is proved by those evidences only. So everything requires a pramana for its knowledge or establishment. So if you say that the things are not real and cannot be separated from our thoughts, we cannot remove pramana from the picture. And then second part of this argument, pramana anupapattihi upapatibhyam. So praman anupapatti upapatibhyam. So we say that the non-reality of things is demonstrated neither by the evidence or neither by the pramanas rather, and nor without them. So you cannot say that the thing does not exist if you accept praman also and if you don't accept praman also. How? So a means of knowledge or praman is used to know any object, right? You are using this of a pramana to know any object. So the means, if you negate, then if you are negating the means itself, then there cannot be the negation itself. How are you negating? If you negate the means itself, then how are you negating? So also, if you negate the object itself, then you are negating the thought itself, because the object will generate the thought or connect to the thought. So in this way, only thoughts being real, or this theory is called Vijnanavad. This theory is called Vijnanavad. So this theory we say is not logically feasible. It is not correct. So then we go on to another reasoning, that of the dream. Is it clear so far? Anita, George?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good. So we are on to the 31st now, 31st Sutra, 4.1.31. So Swapna Vishaya Abhimanvat Ayam Praman Prameya Abhiman. So the opponent is bringing the example of the dream. So the opponent says Swapna Vishaya Abhimanvat. So in the Swapna or in the dream, there is an object, Vishaya Abhimanavat. We have an Abhimana or a perception of that object. Huh? And I am Praman Prame Abhiman. So why can't we accept that similarly in the dream the objects are not real? So in the waking state also the object is not real. This logic actually we do accept in case of negating the world from the standpoint of the transcendent reality. In Brahman there is no separation, there is no separation into objects, so there is no. But we right now we are talking about the current state, the in the immanent state, where we are actually existing, the world. So in that state, how do we apply that? So he says, the opponent says that in the dream state, there are objects being perceived. You are seeing the objects, you are observing them, you are interacting with them, but they themselves, they really don't exist. And still we are gaining praman, pramay, that combination, still we are gaining knowledge about them. So the means of the knowledge and the objects both are delusive. Both are not real actually. So the knowledge, in spite of that, in the waking state, you can remember that dream. So he says that the knowledge remains in spite of the objects not being available or real. So he's saying what you said about the pramana being necessary there. So he says it is possible that the pramana is there and still the perception is unreal. So he's accepting two parts now. He's accepting the pramana he is accepting the prameya, the one who's observing, pramata, sorry, he's accepting the pramata, but he's saying the prameya is can be unreal. So the knowledge remains in spite of the objects not being available or real. Swapna Vishaya Abhimanavat. So that is in the dream state, we have objects that are not real. So why can't we accept that thing? So this next sutra, some authors accept as a part of the argument, some accept as a part of the refutation. You can take it both ways. I'll just go into it. So here it is accepted as the uh, part of the objection. In my Hindi translation, it is a part of the refutation. It is both ways you can look at it. So I'll just go into it. So Maya Gandharva Nagar Mrik Krishna Vatva. So he says that there is a very popular example used in the scriptures, Maya Gandharva Nagar. You can see by your in your imagination, you can visualize a full city, right? In your a full city existing in the sky. It is a Maya Gandharva Nagaram. And also, Mrik Krishna is an actual, what we call mirage. So, Mrik Krishna. Mrik Krishna is when you perceive water in the desert, when you are actually seeing there is only sand all around. But because of the diffraction of rays, you can see there is a mirage. No water is available. Still, you can see the mirage. So the objector, you can say, is saying that what we are talking about in the dream state, that the objects are not real. In fact, when your actual organs of perception are working, when your pramana is working, still you see these Maya Gandharv Nagar in your imagination, which still you control. I am thinking of it. And then second one is like Mrik Krishna, where you can't control. You are so dazed by the heat of the desert that you start seeing the water and you actually start running towards it. A lot of people do. It happens to animals also. So just like the dream state, even in the waking state, objects are perceived that don't exist. Like what? Like this Maya Gandharv Nagar, like the city in the sky, or like the Mrik Krishna, the hallucinating of the mirage seen by the animals or the people in the desert. So here also the same thing is happening. The means of knowledge and objects in the waking can also be delusive. Here, the means of knowledge also is making a wrong perception in a way. So the means of knowledge is there, but the perception is wrong, right? So how does the author reply to this? Uh, so again, it is a very small, concise reply. We have to understand the mode of thought here simply. So hetu abhavat asiddhi. So he's saying simply that the right cause is not available. We should look at this in the fifth chapter about the hetu abhav, or the hetu abhas rather, where a cause is given, but the cause is not the right cause. So in a way, why is it not the right cause? You can reach a different reverse conclusion also. So we say that this hetu abhavat asiddhi, the right cause is not available for this assumption to be proved. So how? So just like you see our objects are not available in dream state, we can say they are available in the waking state when they're right. So you can say that this certain objects are of the imagination, or certain objects are of an illusionary nature, but the others are, you cannot prove that they are illusory. You cannot say that this object is illusory, so the real one is also illusory. That is the logic. So we have to understand that you show me how this object is illusory. You have given the example of taking the thread, and we have shown that if you take the thread out, still the thread is separate. The cloth has a reality of its own. Similarly, the objects that you are talking about, they are unreal. Okay, we accept that. They are, but that also we will address in the next sutras also. But uh, similarly, the objects that we are observing, actually, you cannot say that they are not real. Huh? So this your hetu, your cause here is not proper. Hetu abhavat. It is missing. It is absent. The right hetu. So therefore, asiddhi is here. You cannot prove that the objects in the dream state are unreal. The objects of the mirage is unreal, or the what we call any kind of illusion. Like we have a lot of examples: a snake on rope. Then there's a ghost on the post. Well, all happening when there is not proper light. So when you see a stick lying on the ground, you can see that as a snake also. You see the ghost on the post example is about there is a post from far, it is looking like a ghost, or sometimes it's like a tree who has two branches hanging out like this, and from far it is looking like a person, right? So because there is not proper light, so all these kind of misapprehensions happen. But from the misapprehension, you cannot prove that the real appreciation is also a misapprehension. That is how we say. So then we go on to the next one. So till now we have said, he has said, the objector has said that there are unreal objects, so their perception of an object can be wrong. So this we reply, this your cause is not right. So Smriti now. So we are entering into memory. So Smriti Sankalpavat cha Swapna Vishaya Abhiman. So in Smriti or memory, the reason objects appear in a dream is that the objects observed in the waking state are stored in the memory, and they are later replayed in the dream state or when we're imagining things. So Smriti Sankalpavat, whatever we have stored in the memory, though all the different objects that we have earlier perceived, then from that we get this Swapna Vishaya Abhiman. So it can be sometimes something that are not actually perceived, but using different, if I've read a book, I've read about some stories, or I have maybe we also talk about Purva Janma experiences. So we might form an image and then we can experience that. So whatever is we are saying is that, but whenever we experience anything in a dream, in a way, those objects are also not unreal. They are not unreal also. They have a reality of their own. How? Because they are dependent for their reality. They are perceived because something similar was perceived by us in the waking state, and then we have mixed up our memories, and so because of that, there are certain examples where someone saw an elephant and then a girl in a pink skirt. That is Swami Chinmayananji's favorite example. So and then when in the dream he sees an elephant who is walking around with a pink skirt. Right. So in this way, that mixing occurs. So the perception of the objects that was there, but the perceptions are mixed up in the dream state. So dream state is not creating something new or is not experiencing something totally new. It is making available all our previous impressions. They are colored by our imperfections of our memory. The Smriti Sankalpa. There is a Smriti, there is our memory. The impressions from there are mixed up. So even in the dream also, the objects we can say are not totally, you can say, unreal. They have some basis in the reality. They have some basis in the reality when we perceive them in the waking state. So from there only they have come. So some say we perceive some kind of strange creatures, as scriptures say that those strange creatures also we have somewhere perceived in some, some different realm or loka or some different birth also. How realm or loka and how birth, previous births, whatever places we might have been, we might have experienced something different. And in this same birth also, people can move to the subtler realms of thought, where a lot of different beings exist which we don't perceive when we are. So just because we don't perceive, that does not mean they are not there. We always say in our Shastra that there are a lot of worlds or realms that can be perceived by finer minds, by the rishis or the kavis, those who imagine things, no, the poets. So they can perceive. A poet's imagination is not based simply on what I'll rather say, not based on imagination. It's not his own creation. There is somewhere divine, some inspiration from inside, and the poet will always admit that, that it is some divine inspiration. So in this way, all of these are coming from some kind of experience of ours in some subtle state. So then, now we move on to moving apart, moving away from this reality, understanding that, okay, this has been projected, but this is not real. So this world that we have projected, that the world that has been projected, mithya uplabdhi vinash tattva jnanat swapna vishaya pranashvat pratibodhe. So our mithya uplabdhi, whatever we are perceiving, of course, from the standpoint of the world, it's real. But if we move to the standpoint of the ultimate reality, then this whole thing is merely a projection. So it is a mithya uplabdhi that is accepted. This disappears on gaining of the true knowledge. Mithya uplabdhi vinash tattva jnanat. So when we get the real knowledge, that I am that infinite reality, I am partless, I am beginningless, I am endless. And so when this knowledge comes to us, then this Tattva Gyan helps us to, in a way, negate the world around us. It won't disappear. We will keep on perceiving the world till our body is living out its prarabdha, whatever the time period for it is mandated by the previous karmas, that it will live out, but we will still be living the rest of our life as a mukta purusha, as a liberated person. So when this liberated person is living in this world, he is able to keep aside the false knowledge, even though it is appearing. Just like we see the sun going around the earth daily, it is our experience. We never say that we never, we can see the earth going around the sun. But our experience is always that. But analytically, we can learn that actually it is the earth going around the sun. Of course, today instruments are available, satellites are available, photographs can be taken, which will show this actual truth, right? So that can be, but our perception standing on earth will always be the same only. So without removing the illusion can be realized as an illusion. That is what is mithya uplabdhi vinash. So this mithya uplabdhi vinash, then it can come only when we have tattva gyan. So swapna vishay pranashvat pratibodhe, for the just like this objects of the dream state go away in this waking state. In the waking state, the waking objects will be there, but in the higher state, in the highest state rather, there is no higher. It is in the always in the superlative sense. So the what we call the turiya avastha, or the fourth state, is actually not the fourth state. It is the state beyond all states, or it is the state which passes through all of the states without being modified through them. Right? That is the turiya avastha. So turiya avastha is not something separate from the world. It is going through the world also and yet apart from the world. So when we look at this, the false knowledge is Turiyavastha. So we are going through the three states, Jagrit, Swapna, Sushupti, the three states. And we call the state of knowledge as the Turiya Avastha, the fourth state, right? So that fourth state represents our waking into knowledge and our realizing that I am infinite. So that means it is not something over and above and apart from these. इससे अलग नहीं है कुछ. It is going through all of these. I am the one who is going through the waking state. I, the seer, am going through the waking state, going through the deep sleep state and the dream state. But I'm not, I am through them, within them, and apart also in from them, right? I am not divided in any case. All the division is an illusion. So that is the Turiyavastha. So there's this mithya uplabdhi, when it goes away, then just like this dream is destroyed, swapna vishay pranashvat, just like the objects of the dream are destroyed when we wake up, then this pratibodh, this waking up into true knowledge, pratibodh, that true knowledge, when we wake up into this, this goes away just like a mirage goes away when my spell is broken, right? If I actually drink some water, I cool down, and then the same mirage that was appearing, it will stop to appear. So, four to 36. So buddhehe cha evam nimitta sadbhav upalambhat. So he says, just as we accept the knowledge of real objects, we also don't deny that the knowledge of unreal objects occurs because we perceive those objects too. So the buddhi, the intellect is becoming the nimit, it is becoming the medium for experiencing. So whatever we are perceiving in this waking state, that perception is there, the objects are there, that we don't deny. But when we wake up or go beyond to this state, beyond this state, then the objects, they all become unreal, whatever we are perceiving here. So so just in this, for this waking state itself, these objects we accept as they are existing. So this false knowledge also is a part of our life. And then 27, 37, sorry, 4 to 37. तत्व प्रधान भेदाच मिथ्या बुद्धे है, मिथ्या ज्ञान द्वैविध उपपत्ति है. So this mithya gyan, this false knowledge is basically of two types. One is what? Tattva and pradhan. Tattva pradhan bhedat. So tattva is the essence, essence of anything, and pradhan is the appearance. So like if you take a rope on snake example, then rope is the tattva and snake is the appearance. So it is the appearance, you can say, as pradhan, or you can say prakriti, nature. So nature creates this whole world of names and forms where all the things that we observe are that they appear. So then cha mithya buddhi hai, mithya gyan dvaividupati. So this false knowledge, mithya or false knowledge, is two kinds, tattva or essence. So whatever we are perceiving in world has they have an essence of their own. The essence is basically not available to us because of our way of perceiving. So what is the essence? Sat Chit Anand, existence, consciousness, bliss. That is the essence of everything. But of course there is what we call an intermediate essence that is perceivable. So mud and pot, so we can perceive the pot, we can perceive the mud also, and we can perceive the mud as the essence of the pot. So mud is there, this mud is the tattva there, and then the essence of that pot, and the pot is the appearance of that. So that is the appearance. So both are, though they both can be false knowledge, because here we are not actually perceiving the reality. We don't understand that there is an existence behind this, which is a common thread running through that. So till real knowledge is attained, the false knowledge will continue to be seen, and it has to be accepted. And after that, what happens? Once the true knowledge is been, then only the essence remains. I see myself only as the essence. And that is how I tend to get more less and less worried about these things that disturb me about the world. So when I see everything as Atma, then whatever someone else is doing, I see that as their nature. Guna guneshu vartante, Bhagavan says in the Gita. It is the gunas, it is the properties that are interacting with themselves. It is the devta and the object, the sense object, and the reflected consciousness operating through the mind that are interacting. I, the Atma, I am not a part of this drama. I'm just watching. I'm enjoying, and I'll have a good laugh about it. So that is how I have to approach this false knowledge. So this false knowledge of two kinds, tattva and essence, once we go beyond that to the truest of essence, then we reach into our true nature, and then this world of world of names and forms will disappear. So what is this? How do we enter into this fix on this knowledge? So this is samadhi vishesha abhyasat. So this knowledge is uh, you have it is fixed in our mind by this knowledge, by the samadhi part. So what is this samadhi? We'll look into later. I'll just so what is being said here is samadhi vishesh abhyas. What is the abhyas? So knowledge, whatever knowledge we gain by study. Huh? So by study of the scriptures, through Guru, through Shastra. And so whatever knowledge we gain, it does not become a part of our nature. Initially, we are not even convinced that it is right. We start to question. You think, how is it logical? How is it possible? How is it possible that I am something that I don't even see, that is not even known? So when this finally by logical understanding, I understand my nature, then the mind becomes quietened. There is less what we call vikshape. There are less of disturbances in the mind, and then the knowledge is finally illumined. It shines forth, right? And finally, only when knowledge remains and get fixed, that is the samadhi. In samadhi, we are sitting down in a cool, calm, quiet place, and then we are practicing this samadhi. And by that constant practice, that knowledge becomes fixed. And then when we come out of that samadhi, also that knowledge becomes a part of our life. It becomes a part of my behavior, and it doesn't leave me. So this samadhi itself, there are six different kinds of samadhi. So we call them Drishyanuvit, Shabdanuvit, and they come under what we call the Savikalpa Samadhi. So in Savikalpa, there is Drishyanuvit and Shabdanuvit, and there is the Nirvikalpa, the one without thoughts. So, these are the three kinds. They are both what we call the Antaha and Bahaya, inner and outer. So I will explain this a bit later. But before we go on to Samadhi, we have to go back to what is the steps for Samadhi. So I will maybe make a short detour to something further, and we will come to the Samadhi part later. Okay. So we are moving on to 46. Just remember, we have skipped to 46. We will go back to Samadhi Vishesh Abhyasat, number 38, and the succeeding ones later. So, tadartham यम नियम अभ्यास अभ्यास आत्म संस्कार योगात च अध्यात्म विधि उपाय सो तदर्थम whatever we are going to attain, or whatever we seek for, whatever is our final goal, tat artham, that final goal, how is it to be attained? Yam niyam abhyam. So by yam and niyam, etc. What are yam niyam? Part of yoga. So I'll come to that. Atma Sanskar Yoga. So, by for the sake of purifying the Atma, Atma cannot be purified, okay? But there is there is the veil of ignorance that is covering the true nature of Atma from us, from this Jiva, from this deluded individual, right? So this has to be purified. This I mind basically has to be purified. So, Atma Sanskar Yoga, cha Adhyatma Vidhi Upaya. For that, there is what we call an Adhyatma Vidhi, the method of purifying our mind. Because just the gaining of the Atma Jnanam is not sufficient in itself. So, we have the Adhyatma Vidhi. So, Adhyatma Vidhi involves different kinds of sadhanas. We call them Antarang sadhana, Bahirang sadhana, then Gyan Arjana, Manan, Nididhyasan, and so on. So all of these sadhanas, they represent the different ways we assimilate the knowledge and also become fit for the available, for the absorption of the knowledge. In Tattva Bodh, we saw that as the sadhan chatushtay sampanadhikari, the four sadhan that we have to have. I have to have mumukshutvam, vairagya, viveka, and the shat sampatti. So, shamadama, upratiti, tiksha, shraddha, and samadhan. So, all of these are part of that. So, here we are talking about the yoga abhyas, yoga. So, in yoga, we have the eightfold path. So, eightfold path represents the different ways we have to fix the mind and purify the mind. Is it okay if I go a bit more into yoga here? Because it's not actually part here, but we started Yoga Sutras once and then we skipped that. So, right? So basically what we call the system of Ashtang Yoga. So what is this Ashtang Yoga? We have Yam, Niyam, and this is saying Yam, Niyam, Abhyam means etc. You can add the more of the rest of them here. So Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So you can write that down. Yam, or you can find them anywhere online. Yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, then pratyahar, then dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So before we reach samadhi, there are different steps that we have to go through so that our practice of samadhi is perfect. That involves removing all the thoughts that are going to disturb us in samadhi. That also we'll say see here. The thoughts need to be removed. So Yama represents the different kinds of disciplines that we have to go through. So, Yam and Niyam. So, what are the Yamas? Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Asteya, Aparigraha. So, we have to follow the path of truth. Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, aparigraha, right? So all of these represent the different disciplines that we have to follow. They will be both external and internal. So yam and niyam, external and internal, that we have to follow. Isn't pranayam in the Ashtanga? Yes, I mentioned pranayam also, I think, or did I skip it? Yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, fourth. Then fifth we going to pratyahar, and dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, right? So when we were looking at this yam, niyam, asan, pranayam. So all of these start with the yama. So satya, ahimsa, brahmacharya, asteya, aparigraha. So satya, we have to stay with the truth. We have to stay truthful to ourselves. The more we speak any kind of untruth, then that will keep disturbing us, or because it is something that doesn't go away easily. So that we have to be very particular about. Whenever we say something untruthful, it is going to disturb us, if not now, later on. So that is why it is always said to come clean whenever we commit any kind of falsehood. Then ahimsa, no harm to any people around us. Ahimsa does not just mean non-killing of other animals for food. It means it should be in our thought. The thought of harming any others, that thought of harm is going to produce repercussions in our mind. It will disturb us, right? So that is how we have to restrain our mind from even mentally thinking of doing something wrong to others. Even that mental thought itself is enough to disturb us. So ahimsa is a important part of that. Then asteya is then, of course, asteya is the feeling of non-stealing, not wanting to possess someone else's material. Now, the moment we take something that belongs to someone else, that also, even though we have gained it and enjoyed it, it will forever disturb us. If our conscience is clear or good, if not now, later on when we are on the spiritual path, all of those transgressions that we committed, जहां भी हमने किसी का गलत कुछ लिया, whenever we have stolen from something, or it is a very it is a very wide term. Aste is not just stealing someone, it is also taking someone else's credit. किसी और का तुमने ले लिया. So that also is there. Aste in a part, it's a part of aste. When you didn't deserve credit, it belonged to someone else, and then you took the credit yourself. So that is also asteya. So asteya is not taking someone else's credit. Right? It's not taking of credit. So steya is taking someone's credit. So asteya is refraining from taking anyone else's property, goods, credit, and so on. And then brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, a lot of people just simply equate to sexual abstinence. That is, of course, part of it. Brahmacharya, but also means Brahma acharati iti. So, remaining forever fixed in that feeling of Brahman, the infinite reality, being the sole reality, and similar behaving according to that. So, it involves what we call samatvam. Behaving with samabhav towards everyone, which is also very much why ahimsa is advised. Everyone is part of me. So it's not that I cannot hurt someone. Someone has something done wrong. By my motherly nature, I can go and scold someone or even hurt someone. Right. So that is in a different sense. of making that person improve. So there it is allowed. As long as we are in control of our feelings, we have to indulge in that also. So it's not that some other religion is indulging in violence and you say, come, you are allowed to kill me. No, you have to learn to fight back. Ahimsa does not mean being what being a word, whatever, being yeah, being weak. So that is not ahimsa. You have to be strong also. And then parigraha. So parigraha is uh, not collecting too many things, accumulating. The more we accumulate, the more time we need to take care of them, the more time it will take away from our spirituality. So we should not be accumulating. That is why in the Hindu system we say, uh, well, you have a duty towards the whole of nature. Vyashti Samashti Vivek. So you own a rena, you own a debt, the five renas we have, and they have to be removed by the Pancha Mahayagna, the five daily duties of every householder. So you have to take care of the teachers, you have to take care of the gurus, you take care of the guests that come to Atithya, and if you take care of the beings around you. And uh, then you also have to take care of your what we call duties towards your forefathers, the Pitas. So that involves living there. Duty does not mean just doing a Pitar Puja, giving food to the Brahman. Giving of food is uh, continuing their tradition, continuing the tradition. Whatever good things they did, you have to continue that. That involves Pitra Puja. So that is a very huge topic look into. So this Satya, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Asteya, Aparigraha, all these are Yamaha. They are Yama, part of Yama. So once we do that, our mind will have very few, what we call vikshepa, what we call disturbances due to any external influences, right? Any for external uh, behavior. Then finally we go internally. So that is niyam. So niyam, what are the five niyams? There are five niyams: Shauch, Santosh, Tapaha, uh, then Swadhyay, and then Ishwar Pranidhan. Shauch, Santosh, Tapa, Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhan. So I remember them by the three S first: Shauch, Santosh, Swadhyay, and then Tapasya, and then Ishwar Pranidhan. So Shauch is purity, purity of both the mind, the inner purity, and the outer purity. The more purity is there around us, the less disturbed our thoughts will be. Then Santosh, we should be satisfied with what we have. The more we have cravings we have, the more they will create disturbances in our mind. So whatever I have attained also, I should be satisfied with that. So that is the main essence of Santosh, both inner and outer. And then Tapasya, I should be willing to go through a severe pay period of inflicting sort of discipline on myself. Even if there's some pain, I should learn to bear it with fortitude, not start crying like a baby, every time some sickness befalls me or some kind of hard times befall me. And sometimes I have to voluntarily go out. I have to go out, and maybe sometimes I take a trip into the desert, and I bear the heat there, learn to bear the heat. So there was a very famous sadhu in the yoga tradition. When he went to his guru there, he found that he could not bear the heat. He had come from a cooler place, and he went to a place where he found it difficult to handle the heat in Bihar. So when he reached there, he found that he had to do something about it. So he would daily go out and do a yagya with the fire, proper fire, in the midday sun, till it became so much of his ritual that, in fact, when he would come back to his house inside, or when he would come back to his master's chamber, to the guru's chamber, he would feel cool. That is how it strengthened him. So that is what tapasya does. It strengthens us internally. We saw this in the uh, uh, sadhan chatushtay also. And then swadhyay. Our studies should always go on. So the more we keep on studying strongly, then we will be able to and reach that stage where our knowledge becomes perfected. And then Ishwar Pranidhan, always be surrendered to the Lord. Whatever we do, do for the Lord. Then that way our sense of ego will never rise to disrupt us, right? And then the others, then once our mind has been perfected to that, then we can go into the yam niyam asan is being able to sit in a perfect stationary state for long, so that our samadhi abhyas be there, because our samadhi will not happen if after every few minutes I feel tired and start moving here and there. So I have to practice that, and that involves a lot of exercises by which I strengthen all my limbs and am able to sit in that pose. Then pranayam, stabilizing my breath. My breath should not move about crazily all the time. I should learn it by using the different pranayam techniques. So if I do Nadi Shodhan, Pravishuddhi, all of these, I can keep on doing. And of course, if you know the main pranayam, where you do Anlom Vilom, and then there you have to take the breath with the pranayam mantra, Om Bhu, Om Bhuva, Om Swaha, Om Om Jana, Om Tappa, Om Satyam. Then again you chant the Gayatri mantra, Tat Savitur Vareniyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimai, Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat, and finally Om Apo Jyoti. Finally, when you finish that, you will reach through pranayam a stabilization of your breath and merged with the quietude of your mind from the chanting of the mantras, because they are all taking you to the highest, Om Bhu, Om Bhuva, Om Swa, and to the highest, and then finally bringing that quieted knowledge into the earth. Om Apo Jyoti Raso Amrita Brahma Bhubhuva Swarom. From that perfected knowledge, Apa Jyoti, I bring it to this world. So when we do these practices, our knowledge becomes more fixed and sharper. And then of asam niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar. Pratyahar, removing all the sense, withdrawing the senses inwards, removing them from the sense objects. I should not be desiring after sense objects even in state of meditation. So I have to learn to develop vairagyam. I have to learn to, control my urges. So that is how I go into this pratyahar. And then dharana. I develop, I fix my mind on one kind of object. Huh? So my favorite deity is Krishna. So I will visualize a scene from Krishna's life and I will meditate on that. So that is dharana. I have made a dharana, a notion where I can fix my mind on, so that it does not waver too much. So something divine, something good, something pure. That is what I fix on. And then that dharana becomes a journey towards who is there. When you're thinking about Kanaji, he is going to guide you upwards. So it can be a personal God, or it can be impersonal God. It can be someone who I would say Maharajji. So just my Lord. Someone I feel is guiding me, who's telling me everything. So that is how that inspiration comes to you from inside. And then ultimately before that, dhyan. So I have fixated my mind on the knowledge, and I'm just thinking only of that. I'm focusing internally on that. And then finally, the final stage is samadhi. So that I think we'll cover in the next class, because I would like to pick up all the different parts. So I, I think we'll wind up for today then. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम।